My name is Clara, and this is the quiet, honest story of how I watched my husband change after marriage. It is not a loud story. It has no big arguments or dramatic scenes. It is a soft story, made of small moments, long silences, and quiet hopes that rose and fell inside me for many months. When I first met Ethan, he felt like sunlight on a winter morning. I was shy then, thin-voiced and careful with my feelings, while he seemed open and warm. He laughed easily. He listened gently. In those early months, he made me feel like I could breathe more deeply than I ever had. We spent long afternoons walking through the park near my apartment, talking about simple things, our families, our small dreams, the foods we loved, and the kind of home we hoped to build one day. When he proposed, I cried because I felt lucky. I felt chosen. I believed his kindness was a steady thing, a strong promise that would guide our future. I never imagined it could fade or change shape. Back then, I thought love stayed still. I did not know it moves. After our wedding, we moved into a small, quiet house on a tree-lined street. The first weeks felt like a gentle dream. We painted the walls together, our hands brushing as we worked. He held me from behind when I cooked breakfast. At night, we lay close in bed, whispering small hopes about our future. How many children we might have, where we might travel, what kind of life we would build. Everything felt soft and full, but changes do not arrive loudly. They arrive like shadows, little by little. I noticed it first when he began to come home later than before. He used to call me on his way home. Now he stopped. He used to tell me small stories from his day. Now he stayed quiet while we ate dinner. I told myself it was stress. I told myself it was just a busy season. I told myself every new marriage goes through adjustments. And for a while, I believed that. But the change kept growing. He began to look tired all the time. Not just the kind of tired that comes from a long day, but a deeper tired, one that lives inside the eyes. Some evenings, he walked past me without touching my shoulder or kissing the top of my head the way he used to. I missed those small touches more than I could say. Sometimes I would sit beside him on the couch, and he would lean away just slightly. Not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for me to feel it like a cold breeze between us. He did not do it intentionally, I knew that. But his distance felt sharper each day. One night I reached for his hand while we watched a movie. He let me hold it for a few seconds, then gently pulled away and folded his arms. That small motion, so soft, so quiet, made something inside me ache. I started asking myself silent questions. Did I do something wrong? Did he stop loving me? Is this what marriage becomes? The questions stayed with me like a whispered soundtrack in my mind. I tried to bring back the closeness we once had. I made his favorite meals. I cleaned the house even when I was tired. I placed fresh flowers on the table like he used to do for me when we dated. I tried to talk, to open windows in the silence between us, but he answered with short words, closed eyes, or long sighs that told me he did not have the energy to respond. There were nights when he stood in the hallway, looking at nothing, his face tense and lost. I would whisper his name, but he would only nod as if the sound of my voice reached him from far away. He was near me, but he was not with me. And that kind of loneliness, the kind that exists while sitting beside the person you love, is the heaviest loneliness I have ever known. One evening, after a long, quiet day, I found him in the kitchen with his head resting in his hands. The light above him made his shoulders look heavier. I walked in slowly, careful not to startle him. "Ethan," I said softly, "talk to me." He lifted his head, and for a moment, I saw the man I married. The softness in his eyes, the gentleness in his expression. But it flickered and disappeared too quickly. "I'm tired," he whispered. "I know," I answered, "but something else is happening. I can feel it." He stared at the table and said nothing. And something inside me cracked, not broken, but bent, like a branch that cannot hold the snow any longer. That night, I cried quietly in the bathroom, my hand pressed against my mouth to keep the sound small. I did not want him to hear. I did not want him to feel guilty. I only wanted to understand why the man I loved felt so far from me. Months passed, and the distance between us became a quiet habit. We ate in silence. We walked past each other gently, like two people trying not to disturb a sleeping child. We shared a bed, but our hearts slept in different places. Yet even in the distance, I never stopped loving him. I remembered the softness in his laugh when we first met. I remembered the way he held my face when he asked me to marry him. I remembered the man who once told me I made him feel safe, and I waited, hoped, that part of him would come back. One night, after nearly a year of quiet drifting, something changed. He came home earlier than usual. He sat beside me at the table, and I could feel a tremble in the air around him. His hands shook slightly. He looked at me for a long time, not with coldness, but with a deep, tired sorrow. "I don't know who I am anymore," he whispered. His voice cracked. "I don't feel like myself. And I didn't know how to tell you because I didn't want to disappoint you." His honesty hit me like a warm wave after months of cold water. My eyes filled with tears. Not because I was hurt, but because I finally heard the truth I had been searching for. I reached for his hand, not gently, but firmly, as if I were holding on to something slipping away. "You can change," I told him softly. "People change after marriage. Life changes us, but I am here. I just need you to let me in." He closed his eyes, and a tear slid down his cheek. It was the first time he cried in front of me since our wedding day. In that moment, something opened between us. Not everything, not all the distance, not all the silence, but enough to begin. We did not fix our marriage overnight. We did not return to the beginning. But we started again. We talked more, slowly, quietly, sometimes awkwardly, like two people learning a new language. We took short walks in the evenings and held hands again, even if it still felt uncertain. We cooked dinner together, even if the kitchen felt too small for all our emotions. Little by little, the warmth returned. Not the bright warmth of newlywed days, but a deeper warmth. One that comes from honesty, from patience, from choosing each other, even when it is not easy. Marriage taught me something I never learned in books or in stories from friends. People change after marriage. Sometimes they drift, sometimes they hide. Sometimes they lose themselves without knowing why. But if love is real, gentle, patient, steady, then two people can find each other again. Not as who they once were, but as who they are becoming. This is my story.